Ready? How are we all doing? Thank you all for joining us on this chilly, slightly cloudy, incredibly chaotic Friday. We're just so happy to have you all with us to better get to know our subject guide and figure out how best to adapt those materials to your own purposes. My name is Maddox Pennington. I'm one of the co-organizers. You'll meet many other co-organizers in the breakout sessions. I just want to acknowledge Hannah Park and Rachel Watkins. We're going to kick things off and then go into the breakout rooms. Many of you did respond to my poll expressing preferences, and we're pretty evenly split. So you can, if you need to have a last minute change of heart, you can, but otherwise we should be pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and introduce you to my favorite organizing tool in the whole world, Miro. Everybody in my department is like, oh God, not Miro again. But yes, Miro again, because it's the best thing I've ever seen. All right, so can you guys use the thumbs up react? How many of you have had a chance to take a look at, or the chat function, have had a chance to take a look at the anti-racism praxis subject guide yet? Okay, decent number, that's pretty good. Glad to hear that. We're hoping to get that number much higher because as wonderful as it is to have this like painstakingly crafted list of resources of, peer-reviewed articles and media sources and images and essays, it's not really doing anything for us if we're not actually using it, right? I've gotten more compliments than I can count, undeserved, because I did not spearhead this project. That was Sarah Trembath, my previous chair, about how wonderful it is that we have this. And I agree. But what I really need to see next is our faculty and our wider AAU community using this subject guide. And so that's what today is about, is helping you all figure out where is there room in your current practice to either incorporate these tools, use some of this language, or modify some of the assignments that you do to make more room for active anti-racism practice, both on your part and on the part of your students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hannah Park, librarian and education and school of professional extended studies expert. And she is going to talk us through what the subject guide is and how we made it. And that's where we're going to start. If you have questions as we go, please do feel free to drop them in the chat. Take it away, Hannah.
Were we going to show the screenshot in Miro, or did you?
My screen up to you. I can keep sharing, or you can. It's up to you.
Okay, sure. I can share my screen then.
I'm also going to drop a link to this Miro board in the chat. Everybody should be able to see it. Let me know if you can. Okay. Miro's like a very interactive.
Comments or send emails to us if you have any questions or comments about this as you explore the research guide.
All right, thank you very much, Hannah. So hopefully that orients you a little bit visually. On our Miro board, I also took a screenshot of what the subject guide looks like and illustrated the sidebars. And then some of my amazing colleagues on this committee, Zainab Chima and Christina Bush, made one-sheet resources for you to refer to. So we kind of just pulled a highlight reel of terms and definitions. And then on the other side, it's the internet, there's 2 PDFs, I'm sorry. On the other side, there's a short list of practices for your praxis so that you can pretty quickly and easily think about small modifications you could make to your courses this semester without losing your mind that are going to help create a more inclusive and multicultural classroom. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our partner in the anthropology department. Rachel Watkins is terrific and an associate professor of anthropology, director of graduate studies, and a diversity, equity, and inclusion fellow. And she's going to talk to you about what are we going to do with all this after you've all developed amazing dynamite lesson plans and activities based on the subject guide.
Yes, hey everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks to Maddox in particular for inviting me to be a part of this. It's really exciting because as a DEI fellow, our focused goal this year is to put together some guidelines. We don't know if it's going to take the form of a handbook or what, but we want to provide some kind of concrete steps that people can take to implement these, all of the, like she said, like Hannah said, all of the subject matter that's in the guide, implementing that in your syllabi and whatnot. And so one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing in the information that we're collecting is contributing to supporting the faculty in not just making this work or making this happen, but also the mechanics that are involved around decision making. So a lot of discussion is taking place, has taken place, continues to take place around the fact that if you're addressing anti-racism, then you're not, or it's difficult to address other oppressions. And so we are, for instance, kind of putting together guides for how to go about making decisions about how you're going to address anti-racism in the classroom without feeling like, or without being mindful of other oppressions. So I wanted to give you an example, just because I know we're short on time, that comes from my particular subdiscipline of anthropology, which is biological anthropology. Kind of piggybacking off of something that Meg said earlier, there are a lot of folk who kind of assume that when you're talking about biologically oriented things, scientifically oriented things, that kind of is off limits or isn't necessarily connected to any matters which would require some sort of anti-racist approach. However, in biological anthropology, one of the things that we're departing from is centering Western knowledge in general, and certainly decentering Charles Darwin from how we present histories of evolutionary thought. There is a colleague, Sheila Arthreya, who has really led the charge on this, and she's actually made her kind of lecture materials, including some slides, available. And so, for instance, we're going to be able to share things with you that you can use. You know, everybody across the world is really using those slides. So we are not going to put together a guide that's going to require you to kind of start from scratch. The other thing I wanted to mention is about specific steps, non-Western approaches. Oh, also how to go about setting aside time to address certain issues. So again, with biological anthropology, there's an assumption about how you're going to approach this business. And you know, there are issues like genetic ancestry testing that come up, these discussions about, you know, gay genes, criminal genes, you know, all of this ridiculousness. You know, it's important to engage that stuff in the classroom. So we're going to have guides, a guide, provide steps on how to do that. And then the final thing I want to mention is that, you know, it's really important to think about this work not just in the context of ethics. It's not that it's the good thing to do, the right thing to do, the ethical thing to do. It's the intellectually robust thing to do. You know, so an anti-racist approach is a part of demonstrating intellectual rigor. And I know that's something that a lot of people continue to struggle with, but thanks to Maddox and Hannah and Sarah, who've kicked us off, it'll be something that it's easier for people to absorb. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Yeah, I love that you make it an accessible thing, but also a really significant thing. When we the committee hosted a teach-in for the Literature and Writing Studies Department last year, one of the things we started with was building your anti-racism praxis is professional development at this point. Like, it's really a dereliction of duty if you're not working on ways to do this. But I know that it can feel like just a huge mountain, and it feels like there's a ton of space to do things wrong, and there probably is, but there's also a lot of space to learn to do things a little bit better.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, please.
Sorry, because I wanted to share with folks a part of the conversation that I had with Maddox around this. I was telling them about how there's a lot of discussion about switching up language in biological anthropology, because again, when you're talking about meiosis and mitosis, people assume it's just, you know, it's a given that you're going to use certain language. And I was telling her about my consulting with a textbook company and explaining to them that they're not going to be able to use man and woman and mother and father when talking about these processes in the way that they used to. And they were kind of perplexed and saying, well, what language are we going to use? The people with sperm, people with eggs, etc. So we also intend to include use kind of very basic pointers like that.
Absolutely, and pointers that
are connected to an anti-racist agenda.
For sure. Pointer basics that'll be able to translate to all the different disciplines, because we have a whole bunch of different schools and a whole bunch of different fields, both faculty and administrators and other interested parties in here. So we really want to produce something, or have you produce something during this time that's going to be immediately useful to you. So I'm sharing once again my dear friend Miro. These are the 5 groups that we have. As just a reminder, so my group is in group 1, where along with Christina Bush, we're going to be talking about like the terms and language basics that you can start to consider as you look into updating your existing activities. Group 2 will talk about existing classroom practices, focusing on implicit bias. Group 3 is going to focus on decolonizing your syllabus. So really getting into those resources in the subject guide. What can you use? What can you find that are easily swap outable texts that you can get to know this semester? Group 4 is going to be texts outside the academy that are based in a grassroots or organizing praxis. And group 5 is knowing, doing, being in the virtual classroom. So if we can get those breakout rooms up, you can choose your own adventure. And we will really try to make these breakout groups hands-on. So have your materials, whatever they may be, accessible so that you can ask questions and start to really do those revisions. So this is productive time for you. And I will field any questions you guys might have as we schlep you off into your groups as well.
So you need to have the updated version of Zoom in order to choose a breakout group. If you don't see kind of options, I guess we can manually put you in, I think.
Yeah, if you let them know in the chat, I think Eric will be able to assign you to a room on your behalf. So you can just drop the number of the group you'd like to be added to.
And definitely do that. Just let me know.
Eric, your voice is
but
so
otherwise, we just wait for you to place us in a group?
Or you can actually choose yourself if you have the most updated version of Zoom. If you open up the breakout groups, you'll see the different rooms and you could just click and it'll send you to that room.
So you can either place yourself, or if you don't seem to have that functionality, you can just put the group number that you'd like in the chat and Eric will assign you. Thank you, Eric. All right, as we're waiting for the rest of our compatriots to make their way back, I'm going to share this link one more time. Everybody should now be able to edit our friend Miro board here. So I want to invite a representative or two from each group, maybe our host, but maybe somebody else. If you really encountered something during your practice of the workshop today that is particularly useful, you can just click right into these post-its, and you can also create new post-its. What's something that you can try out this semester? Statement of inclusivity. David, which group are you in?
Group 2, implicit bias. And
thank you.
There's something, yeah.
Sorry, my hands got like one letter off and then it was all over. Okay. Thank you. I'll put these in the Miro board also. Anybody else have something particularly helpful that came out of your workshop? And again, feel free, you can just speak it, or you can type it, or you can dive right into Miro. I know in group 1, we talked about the idea of engaging multiple perspectives and not necessarily like resolving them, right? Letting them be in conflict, letting them be in tension. Here's another one from group 4.
Yeah, Maddox, I think that, I'm developing a new course in independent study I've not taught before, and I am very, very thin on the reading. So I need to take a closer look to get a better diversity of perspective. So as I'm building out, I just need to be more thoughtful and deliberate.
Mm-hmm. Being more thoughtful about text. So, wow. text selection in new courses in particular, right? Because it's really tempting to just rely on authors that you know and you've learned and you've taught a million times, but that's not actually a way to move forward, right? And continue to diversify our praxis and our reading lists. Yeah. Any other big concrete takeaways?
Maddox, I have one I just want to share with our group because we wanted more time together. But the anti-racist work is ongoing. It's never completed. And while we may say, the world is crazy and I don't have a lot of bandwidth right now, and I know I'm there, and I know a lot of us on this call are there as well, there is a distinct urgency, and you can look to Wednesday for what that urgency is. We need to be doing this work, and we need to be doing seriously. We're not just talking about academic rigor here. We're talking about very serious, this is the progression of our society and the university going forward. So it's a forever project. I don't know if anybody went to a liberal arts institution, but this is like a lifelong learner thing,
I agree. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that we don't have to do this perfectly. We don't have to wait until we have our master's in perfect communication on tough racial topics to do any of this work. You can pick one thing to focus on. You can add one statement. You can make time to look at language. You can pull it from the news every day if you want to. But I think it really begins with just being willing to do it imperfectly and to be transparent with your students. Like, this is going to be messy. This is new for me. You can be open with them and trust that in this climate, they're not going to punish you for it.
Maddox, is there any way I could snatch 20 seconds to show a source?
Absolutely.
So I can screen share?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a source that I know George was gonna, can anybody see my screen or did I not even do that? Hold on.
Give it one more go.
Thank you. So this is one of the sources that George was going to share in our group that we didn't get to. We were talking about what is decoloniality and what's not. I find one of the most helpful sources of, to be this scholar who is a decolonial scholar who was saying, like, look, okay. She was saying, look, not everything is decolonizing, but that doesn't mean you can't do something useful. Like, if you haven't taken the time to go back and study the imperial history, right, of the worlds, there's still things that you can do. I dropped it in the chat box. You can diversify your syllabus and curriculum. You can digress from the canon, as one of our members talked about. You can decenter knowledge and knowledge production, devalue hierarchies, disinvest from citational power structures, diminish some voices and opinions in meetings while magnifying others. This is a great, it's just a blog post, so it's short, but this is a scholar who wrote this. And so please take a look at it if you want something that's really practical and you're not sure where to start.
Awesome, thank you. So we have about 5 minutes left. Eric is going to dispatch a quick poll. So we're going to share the results with all of you. While he does that, I would love to hear from group 5 and maybe a little more from group 3. Any takeaways you got? Group 3 decided to historicize and contextualize the roots, of the voices. I think that's super important. Where did they come from? Who's paying their bills?
And then maybe you're group 5. I thought we were group 4. Anyways, so we were talking about activism and making sure that voices outside the academy are included in our syllabi.
Oh, you're right. You are group 4, sorry.
Inside of the chat, I have put a link to a list of people, of activists, on the ground activists, of organizations who are doing policy work, and our time seemed very, very short, but I think the biggest takeaway that I want folks to remember is that we can assign things that are not in writing. We can assign social media posts, we can assign video, we can assign art, we can assign literature, we can assign poetry, no matter what, our disciplines are. We can assign oral histories, we can talk to people, and all of that has authority and credibility and reliability. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's such a key thing, building reliability in a lot of directions. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me go ahead and chime in for group number 5.
Thanks, Anna.
So our conversation addressed implicit bias in the online classroom, and specifically, we talked about 2 main strategies at the end to deal with difficult conversations or spaces when students or other participants in the classroom express opinions that are insensitive. So our two strategies are call in. When we have to address the harm that's done and to repair the harm that's done, we call the class community in, we call the people and the stakeholders of the class in to repair that harm and to restore the class community. And our second strategy is to teach in. So to occupy that space where the harm has been done. So if somebody says something in a breakout room, repair the harm in that space. Or if somebody says something, insensitive in the main Zoom room, to interact and to repair the harm in that space and occupy that space with our expertise and professionalism.
I think that's a wonderful way to think about it. And it also reminds us that when you incorporate these practices, this culture building into your classroom, you are alleviating the burden on marginalized students who are most affected by this. By making it a part of the work that everybody is doing, you're going to diminish that feeling where like something's horrible is said and everyone turns to look at the one student that applies to, because that's a terrible space to be in, right? It's an immediate microaggression that students encounter over and over again in their time being who they are in public spaces. So yes, by adopting this at the class level, you're really helping alleviate that burden on your students or on yourself, if that's where you're coming from as well. So the results of our poll were overwhelmingly that people feel more confident. If you don't, I strongly encourage you to connect with our librarians. They are here to help you navigate it. Anybody on the committee, you can also contact. We'd be thrilled to work with you. Most of us, the vast majority, have at least one anti-racist tool, concept, or practice they can apply in their work this semester. I think that's great. I think for those of you, if it's still tricky, it's because we gave you 15 minutes to do it. So don't worry. But thank you so much for joining us today when there is so much going on, and for sharing your time and space with us. I want to just thank my whole committee, thank everybody who hosted a breakout room, thank my co-chair, Hannah. I'll stick around for a little bit in case anybody has other questions. If not, please enjoy the rest of your Friday. Don't forget to drink some water. And the semester's right around the corner.
Thank you all for attending. I do want to mention there's an evaluation link in the survey. If you have a couple of minutes, we'd love to get your feedback on the session. And thank you so much for attending too.